All right. So when you were overseas for 2 years performing over there, or playing basketball over there, my first gig away from home, I was 18 years old, just graduated high school, and my gig, Jimmy, was a month and a half away from mom and dad. But back then, I mean, I'd pick up the phone and call. Yours was a decade earlier, I would guess. And, I mean, picking up a phone from Europe to call home was a lot more expensive. They didn't have FaceTime and Zoom. Did you get homesick? How'd you keep in touch with everybody at home? Or you just severed all ties till you were back? How did that work?
Yeah, it's a great question because you're right. Social media didn't exist back then. There was no internet yet. It's crazy to say that out loud. And so, and you're right. It was very expensive to call, the States and so you really didn't do it. And I kind of just put my head down and said, okay, let's make the best of it. And I just tried to meet new people and be engaged and fully, committed to my day-to-day. And, and a day would turn into a week, and then a week would be, 4 weeks. And it just kind of went like that. But that's part of what I was talking about, where it was hard. The first 3 months was really kind of challenging because I didn't have the opportunity to come home at the end of my day and share it with anybody. And so there's, you're outside of your basketball team. You were alone a lot. There was a lot of kind of alone time.
But basketball, like Magic, it's universal. Hey, 3-pointer, 2-pointer, whatever. They know. Is everybody in your team English speaking, or were there people from all over the world to make up these teams? How did that work?
Yeah, good question. The way the rule was, each country and each team on each country had the rule was you were allowed 2 foreigners per team. And so those foreigners usually consisted of American players. And then the rest were, when I lived in Vienna, they were all Austrians. And then there was me and one other American. And the same was true when I played in Spain. Everybody on the team were Spaniards, except for me and one other American. And most of those players, the Austrians, not all of them spoke English, but because Vienna was a very international city, many of those guys learned English as a second language at a young age, so they could. Less was the case in Spain, but I had taken I had taken Spanish rather in college, and so I had a little working background of that language. But that was the biggest barrier. You make a good point. Basketball is a universal language, so while I couldn't communicate fluently in either one of those languages, when we got on the basketball court, the same terminology applied. Pick and roll, rebound, pass, shoot, dribble, and so in basketball, something I'd played my whole life.
Right.
So it was just a game of instinct, right? You just go out and you play.
And when the coach is asking you to do a drill, you have no idea what he's saying. But as soon as you see one of your friends do that drill, you know what they're doing, so you just follow. It makes total sense. You don't have to know the language.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So I just learned something today. I never realized you played for the Jazz at all. You were picked and then you were let go. Did you play half a season? How did that work?
No, I was there for a cup of coffee.
Oh, geez. Oh, wow. I was going to go on eBay and find me a Jimmy Miller Jazz card, and I was going to get you to sign it.
You won't find that.
Well, I'll make it. There's a thing called Photoshop.
I think you do that, and we might, that could be a collector's item, because it might be like the only one of its kind.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Well,
with
dude,
an autograph, we're going to be rich.
Right.
I haven't bought the autograph yet.
I like it.
So At UVA, I always thought you won a championship at UVA. That wasn't a championship. That was a Final Four. Is that correct?
Yeah, we won a lot of games and et cetera, but we never won the national championship. Virginia as a team only did that in basketball, a couple of years ago, 2019. But when I played, we went to a Final Four and lost to Houston with Hakeem Olajuwon in overtime.
Wow.
They went on to play against Georgetown, who Georgetown beat them to win the national championship that year.
Wow. But you were there when UVA did win their championship a couple years ago. You were right there.
I was right there, I've been very fortunate that for the last 4 years I've been the color analyst on the radio for the Virginia men's basketball team. So I've got to see great basketball up close from a different perspective now than that of a player, and part of that experience led to going to the Final Four and then winning the national championship. And that was, those guys were crazy good, and you need to be good, but you also had to have a little bit of luck, and they had their fair share of luck for all that to play out. They just had to do some amazing things, and pretty neat experience, yeah.
So do any of these kids look up to you and ask you questions and ask for advice, or is it pretty much you come in, do your job, and go home? Do you get to hang out with them and tell them road stories and what they have to look forward to?
I do get to travel with them. So during the season, fortunate that I get to actually travel the day before the game with them on the plane, and then we fly home, and so I get to see them up close and personal. But they weren't even alive when I played, right? And so we get a chance to talk. I mean, I get a chance to talk with them, about financial literacy stuff.
There you go.
What me and my firm does right now, and they've got plenty of other people to talk to them about basketball specific, but one of the things that I can help them with, and other young people who are in their position, is that with financial literacy and just about making good decisions, sound decisions, understanding the differences between, what's an individual stock versus a mutual fund versus an ETF, basic concepts of as we talked about earlier, paying yourself first, compounding interest, how do credit cards work, all those things. And if we put them all down on paper, right, we could come up with 50 different subjects or topics, and you can't cover all that in one session. So it's a kind of evolving, very fluid process. But
it sounds like
that I think is one we needed to be talked about.
It sounds like Miller Financial Group needs a podcast. That's 50 episodes right there.
You know what? We'll talk offline. You can point me in the right direction. You might be right.
I'm serious because, I'm as illiterate with that stuff as I am with basketball. When you tell me all this stuff, I had to crowbar in my Ralph Sampson story. Number one, I have a picture of me with blonde hair being 6 years old and those ginormous shoes. But number two, I know Michael Jordan. I've heard Hakeem Olajuwon, but I couldn't tell you anything about him. I couldn't tell you if he had facial hair or not, if he was bald or not. I don't know what team he played for. I don't know anything. I've heard the name before. I know nothing about that stuff, and I'm the same way with stocks. I just go buy stocks, and I have a little portfolio, but I'm just randomly buying stuff. I know it's not good to tell you that, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing, Jimmy. Anyway, so we need your podcast. I'll be right there. I'll be your first subscriber, man.
Yeah, your point's a valid one, Wes. Really, what you're saying is that, I can speak for myself. All those years ago when I was in college, nobody pulled me off the side and said, "Hey, here 4 or 5 action items that you should do today as it relates to your money, potential money, and all. I didn't have any of that, so it's all about trying to educate young people on financial literacy of the things we just talked about. So your point is a good one, and it's one that we need to continue to talk about and explore with people for sure.